In the shadow of the mighty Roman Empire, far from the bustling streets of Rome itself, a small village rested between rugged hills and dense forests. Among its people lived a group of 5 young boys: Lucius, Marcus, Quintus, Gaius, and Tiberius. They were barely into their teenage years, yet already tested by hardships of hunger, storms, and the heavy demands of their families. Bound together by friendship, they often dreamed of adventure beyond their quiet village. But they had no idea that soon their courage, strength, and unity would be tested in ways they could scarcely imagine. The trouble began with a sudden raid. A band of ruthless brigands swept through the village, burning houses and scattering families. The boys, separated from their parents in the chaos, fled into the forest. Smoke curled above the treetops, and the cries of the villagers echoed behind them. Fear pounded in their hearts, but their instincts told them survival lay in the woods. They carried no weapons except sticks and stones, no food except what little they had hidden earlier that morning. Together they vanished into the shadows of the forest, determined not to fall into enemy hands. By nightfall, the boys found shelter under a rocky overhang. The youngest, Tiberius, trembled with fear, clutching his knees as the forest howled with wolves. Lucius, the oldest, took charge. He gathered branches, striking sparks with flint until a small fire burned. The flames brought warmth, light, and a fragile sense of safety. Yet their stomachs growled with hunger and thirst parched their lips. Marcus suggested searching for water at dawn. The others agreed, knowing their survival depended not only on courage, but also on their ability to work together. The fire crackled, shielding them from the darkness outside. The next morning, they set out in search of water. Gaius, skilled at noticing details, spotted faint tracks leading downhill. Following them, the boys discovered a trickling stream hidden among reeds. Relief washed over them as they cupped cool water into their hands. For a moment, the burden of fear lifted, and laughter returned. Yet the sound of distant voices reminded them of danger. Brigands might still be searching. Lucius urged caution, reminding the others they must remain unseen. With renewed determination, they began fashioning makeshift spears from sharpened branches, ready to defend themselves against both beasts and men. That evening, hunger clawed at their bellies. Quintus suggested setting traps for rabbits or birds. Using vines and branches, they crafted simple snares, placing them carefully along animal trails. It was Marcus who stumbled upon wild berries, though Lucius warned them to test them carefully for poison. Hunger overcame hesitation, and they tasted a few, surviving without sickness. Their spirits lifted slightly. The boys realized that every scrap of knowledge they possessed, lessons from fathers, stories from elders, was now their only weapon against the wilderness. For the first time, survival did not seem impossible, though it remained uncertain. Days passed, each one blending into the next. Their traps caught small animals, which they roasted over smoky fires. The boys grew lean, their clothes ragged, yet their bonds strengthened. They no longer thought like children, but like survivors. Each had a role. Lucius led, Marcus scouted, Quintus built, Gaius tracked, and Tiberius gathered. Yet dangers lingered. Wolves prowled nearby, their howls filling the nights. Once, the boys spotted distant torchlight, brigands still searching the woods. Quietly, they moved deeper into the forest, knowing discovery meant death. Every step forward was heavy with fear, but also with growing determination. One morning, Gaius returned with troubling news. He had seen smoke rising from the hills, perhaps the brigands' camp. They debated fiercely. Should they avoid it, or spy to learn their enemy's strength? Lucius decided they needed knowledge. As shadows lengthened, he and Marcus crept toward the smoke. From a ridge, they saw a camp filled with hardened men, stolen goods piled high, and a few captured villagers. Rage filled their hearts, but they knew a direct fight meant doom. Instead, they returned to their shelter, their minds already turning toward plans of stealth and strategy, not childish play. The boys began to plot. If they could free the prisoners, perhaps their families were among them. Yet 5 untrained youths against armed brigands was madness. Still, Lucius argued that courage mattered more than numbers. Quintus suggested using fire as a weapon, recalling how raiders feared losing their loot to flames. Marcus proposed distracting the guards while others freed captives. Slowly, a plan formed. Though fear gnawed at their resolve, something stronger rose inside them: duty. They were no longer simply hiding to survive. They would risk everything for those they loved. Night fell and preparations began. Under the cover of darkness, the boys crept toward the brigands' camp. Lucius's heart pounded as he carried a bundle of flaming branches, carefully shielded with damp leaves. Quintus and Gaius carried sharp stones, while Marcus guided them with silent gestures. Tiberius, trembling but determined, carried a knife he had taken from a fallen villager. The campfire's glow grew closer, the sound of drunken laughter echoing through the night. They exchanged glances, each boy silently swearing loyalty to the others. Whatever fate awaited them, they would meet it together. Fear had become their companion, but bravery their weapon. The attack began with fire. Lucius hurled the burning bundle into a wagon piled with stolen goods. Flames leapt instantly, illuminating the camp. Shouts erupted as brigands scrambled in confusion. Marcus shouted for Quintus and Gaius to free the captives. Amidst the chaos, Tiberius darted between shadows, cutting ropes with trembling hands. Villagers, weak but alive, stumbled free. Yet the brigands quickly realized the threat. Blades flashed in the firelight as men charged. The boys fought desperately, thrusting their crude spears, hurling stones, and relying on speed rather than strength. The night erupted into chaos, fire, and cries of defiance. Though outmatched, the boys' surprise and courage bought precious time. One brigand fell with a stone to the head, another tripped in the flames. Lucius shouted for the freed villagers to run toward the forest. Quintus pushed Tiberius aside just as a sword slashed through the air. Pain and exhaustion weighed heavily, yet adrenaline carried them forward. Slowly they retreated, drawing brigands away from the escaping prisoners. Blood and sweat mingled as they fled into the darkness, hearts pounding. Behind them, flames consumed the stolen goods, and the brigands howled in fury. Somehow, the boys had struck a blow. By dawn, the survivors regrouped in a hidden glade. Families embraced, tears streaming down their faces. Though weary, the boys stood tall, their bodies bruised but their spirits unbroken. Villagers whispered of their courage, calling them saviors. Yet Lucius reminded them it was not victory, but survival. The brigands still lived, and danger remained. Still, hope had been restored. For the first time since the raid, the people felt strength return. The boys, once only children, had become protectors. They realized that leadership was not given by age or rank, but earned through courage, sacrifice, and loyalty to others. In the following days, the boys guided the villagers deeper into the hills, where caves and rivers offered protection. Together, they built shelters and gathered food. The villagers, inspired by the boys' bravery, worked tirelessly to rebuild their shattered community. While fear of the brigands lingered, a new spirit thrived, one of unity and resilience. The boys trained daily, practicing with spears, stones, and bows crafted from branches. They vowed never again to be defenseless. Each scar on their hands was a reminder that survival was not about luck, but about will, courage, and the strength of brotherhood. Weeks turned into months, and word spread of the boys' bravery. Travelers spoke of the young defenders of the hills, 5 children who stood against raiders. Some said the gods themselves had favored them. Yet the boys never sought glory. Their only desire was to protect their people and ensure no child endured the terror they had faced. In quiet moments, they remembered the night of fire, the fear, the pain, the desperate struggle. But they also remembered the strength they had discovered, a strength born not of weapons, but of unity and unshakable friendship. Years later, when the boys had grown into men, their names still carried weight in the villages. Lucius became a leader, Marcus a scout, Quintus a builder, Gaius a tracker, and Tiberius a teacher. But they never forgot their childhood battle for survival. The forest, the fire, the fight against brigands, those memories shaped them forever. They taught their children and grandchildren that true strength lies not in power, but in standing together, even when the world seems lost. Their story became legend, whispered around fires, how 5 boys, against all odds, survived and protected their people in Rome's shadow.